The time to prepare for severe weather is now. In an effort to better understand the need for emergency planning, the National Hurricane Center in Miami has launched an awareness campaign aimed at informing coastal residents of the consequences of not being properly prepared. MPB's Teresa Collier met up with Max Mayfield, director of the National Hurricane Center, to learn more.
Is the message this year about hurricane season any different because of what happened with Katrina?
It's not different. In fact, the message, Teresa, is exactly the same. We want every individual, every family, every business, every community to have a hurricane plan and have that plan in place now before the hurricane season gets here.
Now, we have behind us here a P-3 Orion. It's a hurricane hunter plane. Tell us about this plane and how is it used in forecasting and predicting hurricanes?
This is a very unique airplane. It actually flies right through the hurricane, usually at about 10,000 feet. Sends back a lot of data to us at the National Hurricane Center. All that data gets into computer models that ultimately helps us make a better forecast.
What's the prediction for this hurricane season?
There are a lot of numbers floating around out there from different people making a seasonal hurricane forecast, and I really don't get too excited about the forecast we're given the year. What is more important and what I'd much rather focus on is the fact that the research meteorologists are telling us that we're in this very active period for strong hurricanes that may last another 10 to 20 years. So that's not good news, and we need to be prepared.
The Mississippi Gulf Coast is currently rebuilding, recovering from Katrina. We have a number of people in FEMA trailers. Some people are still in tents. Their homes are still not stable. What should be their plan and how should they prepare this year?
This is a big concern. We're going to have somewhere around 100,000 people in temporary housing, mostly in those FEMA trailers, and that is not the place to be in any hurricane or even a strong tropical storm for that matter. And I know very well what these people are thinking about right now. They're thinking about getting their homes rebuilt, getting their settlements with insurance companies, and just their livelihoods to feed their family. And they're not really focusing on hurricanes. So it's really important for these good folks to understand that it's even more critical now that they, come up with a new hurricane plan. They're going to have to find some refuge of last resort here to go to before this season gets here.
Is the basic message you need to evacuate? Is that the message?
We would like to be able to tell people to flee from the water and hide from the wind. I don't care how well built your house is, if you're, let's say, 6 feet tall and have 15 or 25 feet of storm surge, you have a problem. That's why we have to evacuate for the storm surge. If you live outside the storm surge zone in a well-built house, and that's why building codes are so extremely important. If you live in a well-built house outside of the surge zone, you need to stay there. Don't add to the possible gridlock with all the traffic and everybody else evacuating. We don't want to do that. But having said that, if your building codes are not good enough to withstand the wind of the hurricane, you too need to evacuate into a safe shelter.
Now, as you look back on Hurricane Katrina, as you reflect on this past hurricane season, are there any regrets or any lessons learned that can be carried over?
Well, there are always lessons learned, and I'll maybe hit a few. I mean, one that I hear over and over after every hurricane, people who had a hurricane plan did much better than people who did not have a hurricane plan. So we really want to emphasize that. Also, the elderly in New Orleans itself, 71% of the people who died were over 60 years of age. And I can understand that. The older you get, the less likely you are to want to evacuate. You don't want to get out of that comfort zone. I'm getting like that myself. I don't like to leave home as much as I used to. But the elderly and the special needs people will always need some extra attention there. And so family members, the nursing homes and retirement centers, they need to make some special preparations for those folks. And then another big lesson learned is that experience is not always a very good teacher. You all in Mississippi remember Hurricane Camille. It's a Category 5 hurricane that made landfall near Pass Christian in 1969, and I'm convinced that Camille killed more people last year than it did in 1969. I've been told over and over that some people did not evacuate because they had gone through Hurricane Camille in their home and they were okay. They thought they'd seen the worst that nature had to offer, but all hurricanes are different. The tracks are different, the intensities, the size. In the case of Katrina, they're all different. So you can't always base your actions on past experience. We really need to substitute education in place of experience. And I hope that if there's anything good that can come out of last hurricane season and Katrina is the motivation to create this culture of preparedness that we need to foster every day of the year.
We're here again in Mobile, and we are surrounded by a number of school children. Is there a special message to school children, or are they the ones who can perhaps carry that message home to their parents?
You bet. That's exactly what I hope happens. The ones I've been talking to inside here, I'm telling them all to go home tonight and ask their mom and dad what their hurricane plan is. So you bet. We're hoping the kids will come through, learn a little bit about hurricanes, see the Hurricane Hunter plan, and then go home and help motivate their parents to get ready.
What impact do you think hurricanes have on children? Because we know children were displaced from schools on the Gulf Coast, and how does it impact them?
Big impact. In fact, I think the biggest impacts are on the younger children and the elderly. I think that there's no doubt that it affects them more. My daughter, one of my daughters, was about 5 years old during Hurricane Andrew, and I remember weeks after Andrew driving around town and passing a big debris pile, and remember her saying, "Daddy, that makes my tummy hurt." So yeah, it has a big impact on children.
Now, you are director of the National Hurricane Center in Miami. The public, the nation depends on you for forecasting and warnings about hurricanes. How much pressure are you under in doing this?
A lot of people put pressure on themselves, I've always thought, and I've got a terrific team behind me, the forecasters at the National Hurricane Center and the forecasters out in the local forecast offices up and down the coastline, the folks who fly these Hurricane Hunter planes like you see behind us today, the emergency management community, and you on the media. We know that we can't get the message out to the public without the help of you in the media. So it's a real team effort, and I'm just proud to be a small part of that team.
So the word for the Mississippi Gulf Coast, we're days away from the hurricane season.
If you're lucky enough to live on that beautiful Mississippi coast, you need to be prepared for hurricanes.